So if you're thinking about doing a podcast, I highly suggest you use Anchor, and here's why. Now, first things first, it's free, and you can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. I'm talking dollar bills, y'all. Plus, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you to the major platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a bunch of others, so that's one less thing you gotta worry about. And they got all the tools you need to record and edit your podcast in one spot, and you can do all that from your phone or your computer, so in my opinion, it's really the easiest way to make a podcast. Now, if that's what you're looking for, and you're ready to jump on it, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. What up, though? It's your girl, Tamara Dawn, and welcome to Tamara Till the Break of Dawn. Now, first things first, I want to thank y'all for hopping on my train of thought today, because you literally could be doing anything else right now, so I appreciate you tuning in. And before I get too far off into this intro, I definitely want to give a special shout out to my podcast fam. So make sure y'all actually check out them podcast suggestions in the episode note. Last but not least, want to give a special shout out to Sniper T for this beat, and all his information can be found in the episode notes as well. So, now that we got all that out the way, let's get it. Alright, y'all, what's up, man? So, how am I doing? Man, I'm at home a lot. I work from home, and then I just be at home, and, I don't know, life feels very much unstructured, and I'm just here, I'm just accepting the many things I cannot control that are not going the way that I want them to go in my time frame. We don't even got our furniture out of storage yet, so there's that. I am really trying to make it a point to get it this weekend because I don't want to have to pay for storage again for next month. So excuse me. Whew. Sorry, y'all. It's kind of late. It took me a minute to get all this together. So, all right. So that's kind of where I'm at. Housekeeping. So, I've been really just thinking about how I wanted the show to be or whatever. So we're not going to have Monday episodes anymore. We're just going to only have Thursdays. That's what I've been able to maintain, and I don't want stuff to feel rushed, and I don't like that I keep pushing it back and all these things. So we're going to just have where the Thoughts to Ponder episodes are going to be in the mix for Thursdays. So, it'll still be there. It's just no more Mondays or whatever. But let's go ahead and move on because, man, it's such a crazy thing. And I'm going to have all types of stuff in the episode notes. So let me just say that disclaimer now so I don't got to keep repeating that throughout the episode, because I actually had to do some research for this one just because I wanted to have stuff, cite my source or whatever. But unless you've been under a rock or, I don't know, you had to have heard about the Ahmaud Arbery, which I be feeling like I say his last name wrong, but I apologize. Him being killed, and then just the other day, George Floyd, being killed by the police, and I could not bring myself to actually watch that video. I don't know. When it comes to not gore, but yeah, like gore or just violence or whatever. I can only do so much, and just seeing the freeze frame for what it was, I couldn't bring myself to watch that. But I will have, like I said, stuff in the episode notes or whatever. But in the midst of all of this, they're actually, and I don't know where I originally saw this article, somewhere on social media, but on May 1st, there was a Douglas Lewis was killed by, so he was like was it a Uber driver? But they had a little DoorDash, that's what it was. They had a little accident, and then the white dude, his name was Anthony Trifaletti, he followed him ultimately and killed him. Never heard of that, just randomly saw that posted on social media. And it's interesting because a meme that I saw recently was like, hold on, let me go to it. I ain't gonna be able to do that so well. It said something to the effect of like racism isn't getting worse, it's just being filmed more. And that's something that I've been thinking like for a long time, is that we don't know what's been going on when technology wasn't what it is, you know what I mean? Like I've said several times in my own life, in my own past ratchetness or whatever, like I'm glad technology wasn't what it is now back in my ratchet days, because there's no evidence of nothing I done did. If you wasn't there, and even if you was there, I mean, that's however many years ago, so you don't even know me no more if that's the last time you saw me. So that was a whole sidebar. But my point is that I just find it interesting when just the timing of when we hear about stuff. Like I remember with the whole Ahmad story, thinking like, why are we just now hearing about this? Like that didn't happen in May. You know what I mean? Like that happened in like February, but video footage came out in May. But them dudes was like running free and doing whatever, and but here's the my whole issue with all of this, and I'm finna go on multiple different, I don't know, but compassion. Like, this is always my biggest struggle with this whole thing is, so let me define compassion, because that's what I do. If you're new, that's what I do. I like to define words. So compassion is a noun. It's a feeling of deep sympathy and sorrow for another who is stricken by misfortune, accompanied by a strong desire to alleviate the suffering. Now, here's the thing. It says a strong desire, so it doesn't necessarily mean that you actually take action. And I think that's important to note, because how is it that I just don't understand how people can like not have compassion. Like, how do you turn your compassion off? How do you just, try to feel like there is a reason that's justifiable? And it's so funny because I'm super thankful to have this podcast, because I've been wanting to make a status all day today, and I almost made one, but I've tried to be more intentional about certain conversations that I feel like I want to really be able to at least articulate well. I don't type a status, and people will still misunderstand me, and that's okay. But the thing about it is, the people who are hearing this intentionally chose, for whatever reason, you either a regular or somehow you could just randomly came across this episode. I appreciate you both equally, nevertheless. And so, but like you wanted to hear, like you maybe read the episode notes or at least the titles, because y'all know I'd be intentional about my titles if you regular or whatever. So it's like you wanted to know what I had to say about this. Other people might be just randomly scrolling, and I don't know. I just, for whatever reason, social media is not my platform. This podcast is. Okay, but anyways, I don't understand how do you choose when you're going to be compassionate? How do you say things like, well, just comply, just do this, just do that? Like, why does that even have to be a thing where you feel like maybe there was a reason that it was okay for someone to ultimately play God, like take it in their hands to decide whether or not someone can live? Like, I just don't understand how, like, make that make sense. And I've never understood that. And all of this just, it really bothers me, and it's flooded all over social media. So I be having to like take a step back sometimes, which I've seen people post articles or just post posts talking about the self-care that's needing, because there's just so much death right now of all different types. My friend's son passed away, and I've known her since high school. Shoot, I remember when she met her son's dad. Like, I've known her for a long time. And I don't know. So there's that. You already know my cousin. There's just, I don't know. It's just death. Very triggering, very whatever. So it's like you got to take care of you. But I don't understand. And this is the other thing that it just irritates me, is with Ahmad, I saw so many, and I said that on the one of these recent episodes, that it's a shame that I'm impressed when people who are not black are speaking up. You know what I mean? Like, that should just be, like, if you're the type of person who you post these types of things about injustice, how do you pick and choose when you whatever? You know what I mean? Like, how are you so angry because, oh, you were running and you run and you should be able to run and they should be able to run, and these things are true. You know what I mean? And I read somewhere where with the George Floyd, they tried to say he wrote a bounce check. That's why the police were called, which I didn't know that was a thing that they did. And I'm going to keep it real. I done wrote some not that great checks back in the day. You know, I done did some things in life, and I didn't know the police getting called was a thing. But let's say he did write a freaking bounced check, bruh. And see, that's what this is, aside from the actual things that are happening, the actual murders that are happening, aside from these things, what frustrates me is why can't two things be true? Why can't it be that it's okay when things like this happen? There is a reason why people are saying Black Lives Matter. Like, why can't it just be yes, they do? Why do people, and I'm not going to say you because I don't know if you, but the thing I do know about my listeners is it's a very diverse group of people. So understand if this is your first episode you coming in on, this is just where I'm at, and the whole premise of this show is you're just kind of on my journey, so I can only give y'all what I got, is what I always say, and this is what's just been heavy on my mind lately. Like, I'm so just disappointed with people, and I'm not even saying the people you gotta be out here protesting, I'm not talking against it, obviously, but I'm just saying that's not the point. It's not even about me trying to tell people actions to take or stuff like that. I just don't understand, like, how can you as a human being, like, it's a human thing to have compassion. Like, how do you not keep that same energy? Like, how do you, I don't understand. And that's what is very disheartening about people, because it's like, I don't know. I don't understand that. The article, the 75 things white people can do for racial justice, that's in the notes or whatever. Somebody posted this, and I actually read it. And I read all 75. Now, I didn't just dive into, but I didn't skim it either. I did read through all 75 of them because I just wanted to see what was on there or whatever. 2 points that stood out that I thought were really interesting is one said, find and join a local quote-unquote white space to learn more about and talk out the conscious and unconscious biases us white folks have. If there's not a group in your area, start one. So the author of this article is white. And I like that, because I think one thing that's important is that people have to be willing to have those uncomfortable conversations, and people have to be willing to maybe be challenged and be open. Like, you can't say privilege isn't a thing. You know what I mean? You can't say that, because that's just not the reality of what we see. And the thing about is, while it's interesting always what is highlighted in the media and whatever, but this isn't made up. You know what I mean? Like, you could say, oh, the media has an agenda. Oh, okay, maybe they do. I'm sure they do. But did that really happen, though? Like, I just feel like people get caught up in the wrong things. But the thing about it is, acknowledge it. Have these conversations. You got to be willing to have those conversations. And there's this meme. Y'all know memes are my thing. Okay. And you probably seen it. So it says, I see no color is not the goal. I see your color and I honor you. I value your input. I will be educated about your lived experiences. I will work against the racism that harms you. You are beautiful. Tell me how to do better. That's the goal. Because here's the thing that is so naive about saying I see no color, which we could even go as far as to get into the culture aspect of it, because every, culture, which is usually associated with race, usually, it's not always, because, it could be just, pending, goodness, I can't talk, depending where you were raised or whatever, but we're just going to say they are for the purposes of whatever. So different cultures contribute different things. Let's just look at this in regards to like food and um, entertainment and fashion and, all these basically outward things or whatever. Hairstyles, even, or whatever. So it's like you can't say, even on that level, like to say I see no color, it makes no sense, because that brings about culture and brings about things that people partake in, especially when you talk about food. So I just think, like, I don't know, going back to the whole Black Lives Matter, and people want to say all lives matter. And yes, all lives do matter. But if all lives mattered, really, because that's another thing I've been really, like, if all lives mattered, the stuff that we see, even beyond these murders of these black men, and I intentionally pointed out black men on purpose. There are black women too that have been killed, but I purposely chose black men. But even beyond these murders, I mean, the way with the whole immigration stuff and kids and taken away from their parents and just all these things, it's like, if all lives mattered, there would just be a lot more equality and privilege would not just be exclusive to one group of people. It'd be like equal across the board, if and you can't I don't know, it's just very naive, to say, oh, I don't see color. And that's what I liked about that point. Let's just get back on whatever. So that was one of the points. The other point was listen without ego and defensiveness to people of color. Truly listen, don't scroll past articles written by people of color. So the interesting thing about that, and like, race is what the focus is of this episode, but the thing about it is these are interpersonal skills that can be used in any relational type of thing, you know what I mean? So it's like, the hard thing going back to these conversations is that you have to be willing, like, the goal can't be that you're, oh, I'm right, like, that's the goal. Like, what you have to go into these conversations, I feel like, figuring what is the goal. Is the goal understanding? Is the goal to be understood? Is the goal, I don't know, unity? Is the goal whatever it is? You got to decide that, and you got to let that lead how the conversation goes, and like almost how you respond to certain things. Like, it can't be about, oh, I'm right. You got to see that I'm right. And the thing about those is sometimes it's like, even if you had good intentions and you didn't mean to offend somebody, I still think it's responsible and respectful, or I feel like more so responsible in, the caretaking of the relationship or whatever. But I feel like it's responsible to at least acknowledge that they, like, don't try to say, no, you didn't feel that way, or no, you didn't. How are you going to tell them how they felt? You might not have intended to make them feel that way, or that to be the outcome or whatever, but you can't tell them that they didn't feel that way. And so the thing with you, listen without ego, not feeling like you know it all, and not having this savior mentality of, oh, if you just do this or whatever, like, you know it all. Listen, be open to whatever. And there's a whole bunch of other things you could do, but those are the two that really kind of stood out to me. Excuse me. Oh, like I said, there's also there's an IG clip I put in there where there's just this young man, basically saying how he feels. It's one of the protesters in, it's Minnesota, right? Because it's Minneapolis. I hope so. It's somewhere. Like, if that's why I be trying to have notes now, because my mind trying to remember minor details is not a strength of mine. But, the article for George Floyd is going to be in there. So in that city where they're protesting is, the young man. And let's listen. Now, I get my nails done. I get my hair done. These are things that are important to me. I don't like working from home. I don't like being home all the time. I don't even feel like I know what day it is. Sometimes I feel like I don't even know what time it is. It's just such weirdness. But I remember recently people protesting all of the quarantine stuff. Armed protesters. And no violence overcame them. Like, nothing happened to them. And then when people protest police brutality, and let's even go here, because I just think people don't realize they're having like separate conversations sometimes. Like, I just feel like sometimes people talk just to be heard and not to understand or really engage in conversation. They're not trying to converse, they're just trying to be heard. And I think, like, I'm on a platform that's how it's built. I'm just heard, and like, I do encourage y'all to engage with me. And I'm most active on Twitter, so that's where I feel like that's where people are the most interactive. But I'll say, leave voicemails, all these things, because I like the feedback and I like interacting with people. But ultimately, this is just a platform where I'm just heard, and I feel like that's how people have these conversations mainly on social media, where they're not trying to hear what other people trying to say. They're not trying to see the other side. And I done lost my train of thought of where I was going with that. Hold on, let me see. Let me look at my little notes or whatever. Bruh. Protesters. There we go. Boom. And it's just such an interesting thing because, a lot of times the argument that comes up with all of this is that, oh, well, black on black crime. 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 And I just feel like it's like you don't even understand how that has literally nothing to do with why. Like, it literally has nothing to do with people being upset that police ultimately they get to, because kill black people, unarmed black people, and Not, they might get suspended for a little bit, maybe. And even if they lose their job, they don't do any jail time. However, we'll go gang violence or whatever. If, hell, we don't even gotta go there. I'll use my own, life stuff. When my ex-husband was killed, and he was killed by 3 young black men. Well, actually, they weren't even men. They were all teenagers. But, like 3 people were involved or whatever. But when they got caught, arrested, whatever, they are still in jail. Like, they did time for their crime. And that's where the problem lies. That's the issue. That, aside from the original murder and killing of people, aside from all that, because that is like the obvious that's an issue. So that goes without saying. So that's why I'm not, like, I'm coming at this from the angle of things that are really, I don't understand. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me why, you know what I mean? From a more emotional aspect of it, I guess. But it's like, I don't understand. I don't get how, like, what does that have to do with, are you trying to say, oh, so because of black on black crime? Like, I just don't think people think about what the kind of like the hidden messages, the inferences, I just don't think people understand sometimes the messages that they send with what they say. Like, I feel like they don't think critically sometimes when they communicate, and I don't understand. It just doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, these have been my issues, but it all comes down to compassion. You know what I mean? Like, how do you not, I don't understand. How do you not care? Or I don't know. Like, and I just, it don't make sense to me. But it's kind of like, why do we gotta keep saying, this world just don't make no damn sense. Like, how long do we gotta, and people, the things I'm seeing, people just, like, I don't know, for what, yeah, like, when it comes to social media, I try to be wise with my social media tweets and stuff, just being out there from whenever. Like, you ain't really gonna see too much of that, because I just really try to be smart with what I post on social media. And I wish I guess it doesn't matter who tweeted this, but somebody, or was it, man, I don't know, it was somewhere, somebody said, was kind of like, man, what are we gonna have to do almost to, almost like people are thinking of taking things in their own hands or whatever. And it's like, you almost feel like that has to be, you gotta come up with your own solutions, because it just does not appear, think what you want, but let's just look at this logically, and based on what we've seen, there's a lot that's unseen, but we're just gonna base it on what we've seen. It just does not appear as if the system was set up for the success of, and I'm talking about the laws and stuff like that, because and I know this is probably, but it should make you uncomfortable. Like, this should make you uncomfortable. it should make you feel something. Like, I don't like anyone to be mistreated. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand how people don't have compassion. Like, I'm not even saying make all these grand gestures and do. How do you not freaking care? How do you? I don't understand. I just don't understand how. Let's go back to the whole, like, you feel like there would be reasons why it would be okay. Like, I don't understand. And you say there's no privilege, whoever you may be. And to my believers, because this is the other thing that irritates me. You cannot try to over spiritualize this. Yes, there is sin and there is evil and there is all these things. We are also human beings in fleshly bodies that go through human experiences while we are on earth dealing with other people. And this ain't right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, right is right and wrong is wrong. And it's just not right. And you can't say, well, it shouldn't, it's not supposed to be about that. Wait, let me get it right. It should just be about God. And to that I say, how do I want to say this? It goes back to what I just said. Like, we are still human beings. Like, we are physical beings. We have experiences here on earth. Yes, as believers, we would try to live through a biblical perspective, worldview, whatever. Yes. And within that, I don't think that means we are to completely ignore our humanity. Like, I don't think that's what that. And the only reason I'm not going all super whatever into that is because I can't think of, like, scriptures, because I could, like, back up how I feel about whatever, but I can't think of that stuff off the top of my head, and I never really thought that was going to come up. That just kind of came out of nowhere. So we'll just move on from that. But I just think that's naive to almost be dismissive, as if that doesn't, I don't know, because, yeah, I don't even want to go. So that's what we got today. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, compassion is ultimately, that's the challenge. Let's just try to be more compassionate. Let's just understand that we are all out here struggling. We are all out here facing some sort of battle, even if you might feel like, oh, well, they should be able to handle whatever. You can't tell somebody what they could deal with. But they struggling, you struggling, we all struggling. The Rona out here, like, that's really still a thing, even though they're lifting restrictions and all this stuff. That don't mean the Rona's gone. That's the thing. It's still out here. People are just deciding, oh, I'm tired. Okay. So, though, it all goes back to compassion. Compassion. Be compassionate. Have compassion. People are struggling. We all struggling. We all got whatever going on. Like, let's just be kind. Let's like come together as a people. Man, I just so yeah, that's all I got for y'all. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your, you know what it is, day, evening, whenever you listen or whatever. Yeah. Hopefully y'all come back, you know, next week or whatever. Appreciate you. So first things first, shout out to Sniper T for this beat, and all his information can be found in the episode notes. Now, like I say on social media, I want y'all to interact with me, so here's a few ways you can do that, and the links and whatnot to all these methods are in the episode notes as well. Now, you can leave me a voicemail. Call 720-457-4022. You can email me. Hey, y'all can follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, and I'll follow you back. And then you can go ahead and slide in the DMs, just not on no weird stuff. You can also like the Facebook page, and the link on there goes to my email as well. Now, what I need y'all to do is pay attention on my socials for when I ask for feedback for the Thoughts to Ponder episodes that air every other Monday, because the reality is that y'all feedback is what makes those episodes dope. So, leave me a voicemail, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or email me. Just holla at your girl.